Hello, Earthlings. It's time to reset your cultural dial. Coming your way next on your favorite device, from the Hoosier State to all the ships at sea, it's the Crawfordsville Peachcast. And now, here's your second or third favorite Dave from Indiana, Dave Peach. Warning, other people named Dave may also appear.
Thanks, CD. This is the Crawfordsville Peachcast. I'm Dave Peach. It's time to talk NFL football with the stat man to the stars, Jeff Nelson. Jeff, how are you today?
Doing absolutely great, Dave. We've had one preseason game. Looking forward to some more, and looking forward to the start of what will be another phenomenal NFL regular season.
We've got our second podcast in conjunction with our friends at Buzzed Sports. They accompanied me to a Colts training camp a couple of weeks ago. They had a ball. We had a great time. We saw Carly Ursay. We saw Daniel Jones. We were treated like kings, and boy, we look forward to football coming up. I know, Jeff, you are back in the booth with the number one team, Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady.
Yes, indeed. Tom just celebrated a birthday last week, so I sent him a little text, wished him another happy birthday, and he is very, very much looking forward to another great regular season with our Fox crew.
Okay, let's go back to, earlier this year, the Super Bowl. It was Seattle defeating New England 29-13 in one of the least memorable Super Bowls I can remember, if that makes sense.
Well, unless you live in Seattle, then it was very, very memorable. But it was one of those, it was one of those where, Seattle just came in and kind of dominated on the line of scrimmage, and their defense and their running game, made things go the way they wanted it to. And they just kind of controlled things as they went through.
New England won, I guess gritty, not pretty, a couple of playoff games, beating Denver 10-7. Bo Nix got injured, and who was it?
Yep.
Jared Stidham.
Yep. And then there's also snow, a lot of snow in the second half really made a difference in that game.
Seattle won a memorable 31-27 victory over the Rams to win the NFC. And you look at the playoffs, and I think the big news in the playoffs, we kind of gloss over what happened last year in the postseason. The big one was Denver defeating Buffalo in that overtime game. The controversy, everything just seems to go bad for the Bills in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing that seems to add up to fun for those guys. Look at 4 Super Bowl losses and all of the misery that has followed them over the course of several decades. And now they open a brand new $2.5 billion stadium, and there's nothing but negative news about it. The players were very unhappy about the footing out there in the turf last week. There's all kinds of issues with blocked sight lines. The architect has been called on the carpet a couple times. So they'll get things all fixed up and worked out. At least it wasn't like when the RCA Dome started. This is a real history moment. The first time they rolled out the RCA Dome, they brought the United States Olympic team in, the basketball team, and by the time we got to halftime, half the toilets didn't work in the RCA Dome. They didn't have that problem at Buffalo. They got it fixed in Indianapolis. Things have worked well ever since.
Well, as you look at, last year, what are your thoughts? I know a lot of people like the Rams to win it this year. Certainly, I don't think anybody's picking New England to win the AFC.
No, I don't think so, Dave. And I'll tell you what, the Rams, from people I have been talking to, the Rams are as close to a prohibitive favorite right now as we are still, of course, a couple of weeks away from the start of the season. They've got a ton of their specialty guys back. They shored up their defense immensely. They may have another defensive guy, an all-pro guy who may join them somewhere during the course of the season. And very, very, very so much to the point, if the Rams stay healthy, they will absolutely be the team in everybody's crosshairs all year long.
Okay, we're going to go division by division. We'll start with the division that's near and dear to our hearts here in the Indianapolis area, the AFC South. Now, Jeff, you are a stat man, and I bet you know this. This is the longest playoff drought rankings here. What team has the longest playoff drought, Mr. Statman?
Wow, that's a good question. Good trivia question. Would probably be Tennessee.
New York Jets, 15 seasons without making the postseason.
Okay.
Second
Well,
is
I don't think they're going to make it this year either.
yeah. Uh, Buffalo and New England would have to roll over for them, and also Miami. Second is Atlanta with 8.
Yep.
Third, and this is why I go to this stat, third, it's a tie, New Orleans and Indianapolis with 5.
Yeah.
The Colts have the third longest playoff drought in the NFL. Who knew?
Well, and it's the active playoff drought. And Dave, that's what makes the NFL so incredibly good and makes it the number one fan driver. It's the number one TV monster, is because 5 years having been out from the playoffs, it just means every single team realistically has a chance of making the playoffs every single year. You say, oh my gosh, the Raiders were so bad last year. Well, you know what? They've got it. Don't talk about the rookie quarterback. They signed a really good long-term quarterback. They have a couple good things happen their way. An injury happens here, an injury happens there, and all of a sudden they could be a bit of a factor. Tennessee, somebody says, oh, we don't know about them in the AFC South. Same situation. This young quarterback all of a sudden gets hot. The defense stands up. A bunch of guys have career years, and all of a sudden at 10, 11 weeks into the season, you're saying, oh my gosh, who are these Tennessee Titans? So yeah, 5 years as a drought with not being in the playoffs. Take a look at the baseball. Take a look at the NBA. Some of those droughts are 20, 25 years. So, the fact that it's only been 5 years for a couple of these teams, that's pretty remarkable.
It certainly looked for the Colts last year that they were going to make the playoffs. They were the number one seed at the midway point, and everything just happened. They were 8-1, ended up 8-9. The standings in the AFC South, Jacksonville came on to win the division 13-4. Houston with that great defense 12-5. You mentioned Tennessee 3-14. The Colts ended up 8-9. I'll ask you, can the Colts end the drought?
Absolutely. There is no question about it, because they have shored up their defense. They like a lot of these younger guys that they've got coming in. There's a couple of rookie linebackers that I saw play in the Patriots game last Thursday night who are going to be impact players immediately. This Halsey kid from LSU is absolutely a real deal. He stepped on the field and acted like an NFL linebacker from the very first series of plays. This Betcher kid from Oregon, who led the Big Ten in tackles last year, is also a solid guy. He's absolutely going to make the team. He could easily be a starter as well. So they're going to shore up that offense. And if Daniel Jones stays healthy, now I know there's a whole question about a wide receiver guy that we won't talk too much about. But with Daniel Jones back, and they're saying he's going to play week 1, he picks up where he left off. The offense is they're ready to go. They're kind of like a Pacers offense, man. They can score points.
You look at that division, though, Jacksonville, they're not going anywhere. They've got all their starters back. Yes. Houston with that rock-solid defense. If Stroud can get going, C.J. Stroud, the QB, that's a tougher division than a lot of people think about.
You're 100% right. It's not the glamour one like the AFC and NFC West divisions with teams that have been good for a long, long time. These are a couple teams that are absolutely solid. It's just a matter of the one thing that has not happened regularly. Houston hasn't strung 2 or 3 good years together, in a row. Jacksonville, I don't think, has ever strung 2 really good years together, and so if they do that, they will be an absolute factor. But strength of schedule, all kinds of other things, and you got to make it all work. You got to put it all together, and we'll just see how it goes. That's what I said. That's what makes the NFL so much fun.
We go to the AFC North now. Everybody talks about we need a quarterback. You need a franchise quarterback. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals have a franchise quarterback, but they can't do anything with that franchise quarterback. He's looking up at Aaron Rodgers in his last year and Lamar Jackson, who has never made a Super Bowl. So this is a division where there's a lot of guys that just have not taken it to that next step and won a championship.
Yeah, that's the shoulda, woulda, coulda bunch over there in that North, but it's the same thing. Cincinnati has had all kinds of issues defensively from what little bit we hear early on in this preseason. People over there like what they have done. They like some of the changes they've made. Joe Burrow, when Burrow can keep his guys healthy, he'll be phenomenal. He'll be phenomenal. But it comes back to the point. Even Peyton Manning, who was as phenomenal could be, you know what? if the Colts couldn't get some stops, then they ended up getting beat by New England in the playoffs, and that's what ends up happening with Joe Burrow. He can go out and engineer 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, but the defense gives up 6.
Lamar Jackson and Pittsburgh, they had that game late in the last game of the season, and Pittsburgh was able to win. They got crushed in the playoffs by Houston. But what do you think about Aaron Rodgers in what looks to be his last season?
Well, he and McCarthy, broke into the NFL together a long, long time ago with the Packers, and they were phenomenal. If they also did not part when they left, when McCarthy was kind of run out of Green Bay. They weren't the best of friends. If they can kiss and make up and say, we're going to do this one more time, I think that there's all kinds of McCarthy will put a great system in to play to Aaron Rodgers' strengths. The Steelers defense, always good. If they can generate some running, a little bit of a run game and keep Aaron Rodgers healthy. Here we go again. The same old story, same old line. If they stay healthy, they'll be a factor. There's no question about it.
Go to the AFC East. New England's offense was mighty good in the regular season. It kind of went away in the postseason. They were able to, as we talked about, grind some games out, and they were exposed in the Super Bowl. You've got Buffalo. They are there. Nobody's expecting much out of the Jets, and Miami seems to be stuck in mediocre to bad land.
Well, they're rebuilding. Miami will be the spoiler this year because they've got some really, really good athletes. They've got to develop, they got to develop some players. They gave away, or they let their quarterback walk away, with all the injuries and the concussion situations with Tua. He's going to Atlanta. We'll see what happens with that. So Miami, I think, is in a program of, if they can have guys step up a little above their pay grade, they will be that team that could keep somebody from winning that AFC East. They're going to be solid, and they'll always be a threat. And I'll tell you what, you go down and play a game in Miami any Sunday during the regular season, and it will be hot, sticky, and steamy. And they play well in that hot, sticky, and steamy, and that'll be a factor down, especially late in the season.
There's a lot of different, weather in the AFC East. You've got Buffalo, and you got Miami, you got New England, where you might have a snowstorm, and you've also got the Jets, and we don't want to forget about the Jets, the longest playoff drought of any team in the NFL. Now, AFC West, you look at Kansas City; they were 6-11. You got Denver; they were the surprise team. Surprise team of last year, 14-3. The Chargers 11-6. They're one of those teams that they're right there, but they just can't make that next. Yeah, they just can't make that next jump up.
And
Denver's got to be.
Yeah, sorry,
Denver.
Yeah.
I was going to say Denver's got to be thinking about losing Bo Nix in the divisional round. This is a glamorous division, and then you got the IU phenom Fernando Mendoza coming in with the Raiders, and we got Dave Davenport here. He's a Raider fan. So, Jeff, you weigh in, and then we'll hear Dave's Raider thoughts.
No problems at all. The Raiders are going to be that same kind of team, kind of like the Jets and kind of like Miami. They're going to be that spoiler. They're going to beat somebody when they aren't supposed to beat somebody in that West, and that could very well make a difference in who makes the playoffs or not, because the other three teams are just going to be absolutely grinding on each other the entire year. Everybody I'm talking to, everybody loves Denver. Everybody likes Denver. They really, they like Denver way better than they like New England. They think New England is a little bit more of a flash in the pan. They really like what has been done in Denver. And several people that I've talked to are saying, staying healthy, it is Rams and Denver. That's the picks for the Super Bowl. So Denver, but it's Denver's to lose, but it's easy enough to lose because you've got a team like Kansas City and Andy Reid. My goodness, all the history that they put together the last several years. They are absolutely a team that can beat you any Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or whatever day they happen to play, because the Chiefs seem to get schedules all over the calendar. And so there you go. And then the San Diego Chargers, they are bringing in one of the best offensive minds to be their OC, the fired head coach from Miami, who just couldn't quite get the job done in Miami because of a lot of other issues. Undisputably, one of the best offensive coaches in the NFL is now the OC with the Chargers. He could really, really light up what could be a great Chargers offense. Sat Aaron Rodgers on the bench for 3 seasons, and then finally Brett Favre, left, and all of a sudden here comes Rodgers, and he just becomes the MVP. So yeah, there's no question about that. That Fernando just needs some mop up duty, and I like Kirk Cousins as a teacher because Kirk Cousins produces an unbelievable regular season numbers. He has got incredible regular season numbers. The big knock on Kirk has been since day one, he's never been able to win a big game. Well, nobody's expecting the Raiders to get to a big game. If he can produce Kirk Cousins numbers, throw for 4,000 yards, that's going to win them some ball games. And just like I said a little while ago, that will make them such a spoiler in that AFC West. Yeah. So the Raiders, I think the Raiders are in great shape. Let Mendoza work, let him develop, and then if Cousins has one more great season and he'll come back for one more, play him again, and if they like Mendoza, kind of like what happened with Kansas City, they let Mahomes sit, for a whole season, and then they let an all-pro quarterback walk, and Mahomes came in and turned the league upside down. Well, if Mendoza is ready to turn the league upside down after 1 year of sitting behind a good quarterback, then bless the Raiders. That will be their choice because they've got a good quarterback. I like Kirk Cousins in the spot that he's in with the Raiders and not a lot of pressure. Just, hey, if we win 6 games, we win 4 games, we win 8 games, whatever. He'll get you 4,000, 4,200, 4,400 yards.
Right.
And he doesn't throw a lot of picks. He will throw an incredibly terrible pick once in a while, which will cost them a game. But it's one of those where the Raiders are going to, we're supposed to lose them all anyway, so what the heck?
Right, and it's like I said earlier, he's going to have, an uphill climb. It's the NFL and all that stuff. Again, Peyton Manning, rookie year, it just, that's how it is. What I like about what you said, Kirk Cousins doesn't win big games. And that's a good thing for the Raiders this year because we have no primetime games. So we got that going for us.
Yep. No, there's no question about it. I think it's a really, really good setup. I really think that the Raiders took a look around and shopped around for several different mentor type quarterbacks. And I think Cousins is kind of, I think he knows himself. He knows the knocks. He was in Minnesota. Same sort of thing happened. He left Minnesota to go to Atlanta, and the exact same thing happened. Tons of passing yards, tons of great offense. Still couldn't lead him to a playoff win. So
right, yeah.
And it says my role now is to make another 10, 20, 30, 40 million bucks and be, and bring this kid along. Then so much better for everybody.
Right. Yeah, no, I fully agree. Dave, I think you're having some network issues. That's what's going on your end there. No, I like their pickups they picked up this year. I wish they'd have went and got another wide receiver. But it's what it is, right?
Yes.
No, you got Jinty in the background or the backfield. The defense worries me. I think the Raiders are going to be a team that is going to surprise a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll have the potential of doing that. There's no question about that. But again, one more little thing: they got a first-year offensive coordinator. With Monaco. So there's going to be some learning situations there. But it's a first-year quarterback.
Right.
It's the rookie behind him. They're all going to learn together, and I think that will be. I think that's just going to be a good thing. And and I can tell you for now that I know that at the top of the heap, the guy that calls a lot of those shots for that team is very patient. He knows what it took to win in New England, and he knows what he wants this new quarterback to do. And I think they're going to stay that course.
Look, he admitted it was a fumble with Charles Woodson when the tuck rule happened. So as long as if he wins us a Super Bowl, all is forgiven.
Okay. Well, I know that is absolutely one of the things that he wants to make happen.
Good. I love to hear that.
Yes. Yeah. He's a good executive. I mean, he knows football, and there's nobody that works harder at football or at most everything, and there's nobody who's more intense than Tom Brady. I've seen it for 2 years in the broadcast booth, and he brings that intensity every day, every game. and he does it in all of his stuff away from football as well. He's a success. He's a success story from one end to the other.
And I absolutely love it. All right, Dave, I'll give it back to you.
Let's go to the NFC. The Bears, boy, they had a lot of close games, a lot of great wins. Caleb Williams and company, they were rocking it on the Chicago shoreline there. Came up a little bit short against the Rams, but a memorable season, a big win over the Green Bay Packers. And that division, I don't know how many times, you're the stat man, but every team in that division had a winning record. Detroit did not make the playoffs. Minnesota did not make the playoffs. Chicago and Green Bay did. Yes. What are your thoughts on the NFC North?
Wow, there are so many question marks there. The Bears, as you said, won so many close games. You cannot live that way in the NFL. But the Bears had enough people there. If they can build their leads up a little bit better and not have to risk winning it on the last play of the game, sometimes they've certainly got the tools to stay where they are and make a run or a deeper run into the playoffs. The Lions are a gigantic question mark. They got exposed last year. A couple of those things were injuries, as we talk about all the time, but they ended up, from the previous season when they lost in the NFC Championship game. I'm sorry, got beat by Washington in the playoffs. It was a scenario of they lost their offensive and defensive coordinators, and that turned into a much bigger deal last year. And they just, I don't know if they just didn't blend right, didn't mesh right. I mean, they've got, let me look real quickly here. Yeah, see, they brought a new offensive coordinator into the Lions. They're bringing in Drew Petzing, so they only went with their old. Was only their one year. And let me look real quick here on the other notes. Kelvin Shepard is still in his second season as the defensive coordinator for the Lions. So there was just a lot of things not so much on the field for them last year. I just think that the coaching situation got a little bit stymied for them, and then a couple of injuries, as always happens, and then the Bears' momentum just ran over them. And of course, it's always hard to beat the Packers. It's just always hard to beat the Packers.
What do you think about the Chicago Bears location for the future?
Wow. We are in Indiana.
Jeff, I've got the press release that has Governor Mike Braun welcoming the Bears to Indiana. It was like 6 months ago, but apparently it's not a done deal.
No, it's not. The Bears big shots had a press conference just a couple of days ago, again pressing harder on the Hammond location, or one of the Hammond locations. I guess it's now two different locations that they're looking at. But again, the state of Indiana is just standing there ready to saying, tell us when to start digging a hole in the ground and we'll start building you a stadium. And the Bears are just, and I understand, they're one of the original teams in the NFL. They're a bedrock and a fixture. For the city of Chicago to lose them, they're going to lose them no matter what. They're either going to go to Arlington Heights or they're going to end up in Indiana. And so it's just a huge thing. Real just awful for the good folks of Illinois and a lot of good Bears fans. When it all gets said and done, there are a ton of NFL teams that are not playing in the city that they are called of. Both New York teams play in New Jersey. The Boston used to be the Boston Patriots, now the New England Patriots. They play in Foxborough, and that was an hour and 10-minute ride for me to get to Foxborough last year. The Commanders of D.C., they don't play in D.C., they play in Virginia. So, you've got a lot of situations there where teams are not playing exactly in the cities that they used to call home. So when the Bears finally get things settled, they'll still be the Chicago Bears, whether they play in Hammond or in Arlington Heights. They just got to get this stuff behind them. And it's just so much, as we always like to say in Indiana, there's so much Illinois politics.
We go to the NFC East, the glamour division. The Dallas Cowboys 7-9-1 last year. Washington 5-12. The New York Giants, the G-men, 4-13. We talked about the Jets. We talked about the Giants. Do you expect a New York NFL championship a la the Knicks?
Oh no,
That's
heavens no.
kind of a joke. Kind of a joke,
Yeah,
Jeff.
yeah, yeah. No, heavens no. John Harbaugh is either going to take this Giants team and turn them into contenders in about a season or two, or he will get run over by the New York media, as have lots of other New York coaches. And as good as John Harbaugh is, it's hard to say which way that'll go. But I know that the Giants ownership is phenomenal. They will stand behind Harbaugh. They have already given him the opportunity to do a lot of house cleaning and make a lot of changes. And we'll just have to see. They are that team. The others that we talked about, the Raiders or the Miami or somebody like that, who could be a real big factor in not necessarily making the playoffs, but on who does or doesn't make it, because they're that team that could come up and bite you in November or December and keep you a half game behind somebody else. They upset the Giants, for example, or upset the Cowboys, for example. Philadelphia's got one game up. They beat Philadelphia, and all of a sudden, then Cowboys are up. And the other part of it is Washington. Washington, I think, is an absolute wild card. They so struggled last year after a tremendous year 2 years ago. Same scenario there. They've just got to step up and prove that they are as good as they were 2 years ago. Time will tell. They got a couple of really hard starts. They start off, I've got them the first 2 weekends, our crew has. We've got them at Philly and at Dallas. So if you're going to be any good, you're going to have to win a couple games on the road, and you might as well do them early in the season, and that's what the Commanders have got.
Philadelphia won the Super Bowl the year before last. They lost in the playoffs to San Francisco 23-19. They're always capable.
Oh my goodness, yes. The Eagles, and the problem with the Eagles is that they sometimes can't get out of their own way. There's always rumors about issues in the locker room. There's always issues about this, that, the other thing. So, but they are good. They are incredibly well run. I won't say they're well coached. They got good coaches. Everybody's got good coaches. But the upper level ownership, general manager level, and stuff for the Eagles, there are very few that are better. So they will do their best to make them good, giving them all the tools they need to work, and then the team's just got to put it all together and make it happen. And they've got plenty of tools to make that happen.
The best division in football could be the NFC West. It certainly was loaded last season. Seattle, the Super Bowl champion, 14-3. The Rams, 12-5. San Francisco, 12-5. Arizona, 3-14. But you've got some Super Bowl contenders in that division. Injuries caught up with San Francisco late.
Again, San Francisco has been caught up in the injury.
And it doesn't have to do with all that stuff around the arena, right, Jeff?
It has nothing to do with power distribution cable and all that. No,
we did check into that, though.
Yeah, no, we did. We tried to do that, and apologize for a little bit of a train noise.
You've got the local. You've got the 740 going through
Amtrak through Crawfordsville. But it'll be done in a couple of seconds. But no, the Niners have got a phenomenal team, just an absolutely phenomenal team, and they can't keep the same 11 guys on the field on offense or defense for more than 2 weeks in a row. So we'll see what happens, because if they stay healthy, they will be just as good as Seattle. They'll be just as good, maybe, as Los Angeles. But yeah, you've got 3 Super Bowl contenders there, and then pity the poor Cardinals. They're gonna tread water this year and see what they can get for a franchise quarterback in next year's draft.
Okay, now Jeff, you are, and we need to talk about this. I think you say it a lot, but certainly, you're in the booth with Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, the number one team at Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff, you would know the answer to this question more than anybody. What's the over/under line of NFC South games that you'll be working as the number one crew at Fox?
NFC South? Oh.
NFC South, because that's the final division we'll talk about.
Well, it will all depend on if there is a close playoff race late. Late in the season. Tampa is always kind of a nice stop. People like, the crews, everybody likes to go to Tampa to do a game, and it's a good facility. And it's a fun place. So we could end up with a Tampa game, But other than that, yeah, it will. Now the other scenario is that somebody could land in one of those. We could get the Eagles. A couple years ago we had the Eagles at Tampa, and Tampa upset them. Right after their Super Bowl win, and so the Vikings land there or something. If New Orleans would happen to get hot early on in the season, they could be a thing. Carolina, seriously doubt. But yeah, I'm not stockpiling NFC South media guides.
Well, they had a division last year where no one had a winning record. They had 3-8-9 teams: Panthers, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans 6-11. Is there any one of those 4 teams that you think they might be close?
New Orleans. Out of that whole group, from what I have read and seen, people like a lot of what's going on in New Orleans over the last couple of off seasons. They have done a couple of nice things, kind of under the radar, just a little bit. They're keeping. They brought their offensive coordinator back, Doug Nussmeier. They've got 9 offensive returning starters. They generate fairly good talk around. And the other thing too, little note from some of my guys, they have the second easiest schedule this year in the NFL. And so that may just help them out just a little touch. So, they had some decent, they were in the top 10 total yards per game. They were 4th in passing. They were 3rd in third downs, so there are some things there offensively. They're better than we gave them credit for, because mostly their defense, really kind of suffered. And but they're keeping. They brought Brandon Staley back as their defensive coordinator, and people really like what he did early on. And again, it was a couple of injuries, that really stymied, the Saints. So out of that bunch, is there a team that I think, from what I've read and seen already, that could make a 10-win season and make a run to the playoffs? I would say the Saints right now.
Okay, we're going to go to announcers next, but Jeff, I need your Super Bowl. Well, let's start with your conference champion AFC.
AFC. I'm going to take Denver and Baltimore. With Denver winning it.
You got Denver, okay, and NFC champion
is going to be the Rams over Seattle. In a rematch of last year's unbelievably great conference championship game. And I think this year it will end up in Los Angeles, and that will be the difference in the game.
And the Super Bowl champion will be the Rams.
Will be the Rams. Are going to win it on their home field, just like they did a couple of years ago.
Dave Davenport, we did not prime you did not tell you you'd be asked for this, but what do you think? AFC champion?
Well, of course, the Raiders, right? No.
Mm-hmm.
Man, AFC, I have to agree. I think Denver's going to do it. Sean Payton, NFC, man, I hate to say it, but I think the Eagles are going to have a year this year. I really do.
They've got the tools to do it.
I think last year was kind of just what it is, and I think Barkley's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder.
Who wins it? Denver versus Philly?
Denver. I think this is the year Denver wins.
Oh, wow.
AFC, here's the thing. I would love to see Buffalo go, but it's hard to... They got that new stadium. Those fans are going to be hype. I'd love to see it, but I don't know. It just... Again, big games like Kirk Cousins. Josh Allen sometimes can't hit it. You can't get past the Chiefs.
They were so close last year. That was so excruciating. Buffalo, they were right there. They had the ball at the 15-yard line, and the guy couldn't. It'd have been better if he dropped the ball. Because it ended up being an interception, and we saw it a million times. But
right,
I got Buffalo winning it all over Chicago.
Wow.
I'm going the Bears. I'm going to go against that sophomore jinx. I'm going to say they get it done. Let's go Bears, and then we'll find out if they're in Indiana or in the land of Lincoln.
Yeah, well, we should start finding out more of that maybe as we get closer to the start of the regular season. They just cannot keep kicking that can down the road. They've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and it's going to reach the point where they're going to run out of the lease at Soldier Field, and then they're going to have nowhere to play because the way everything's done now, they've thumbed their nose at Soldier Field in the city of Chicago. So they run out of that lease in about 4 years or maybe 5. If they don't have any place to go, they're going to be playing at some high school stadium somewhere downstate.
Well, let's talk about announcers. You know all about this. Number one at Fox, Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. There was some talk about Tom Brady as an announcer and a partial owner. Has that pretty much subsided?
Completely gone. Everything has calmed down. Everybody, all the restrictions that the league put on Tom, and now this year they are now putting them also on a certain announcer from ABC who has dived into some not ownership but management issues with Miami. So none of that came to fruition. The teams came to realize that the information they were giving, not just to Tom, but to all of us, aside from a teeny tiny bit of a little bit of inside information that they might give from a production meeting the day before the game, like, hey, we're going to try this trick play, we're going to run this halfback option. They don't tell you anything, or else everything else is knowledgeable from everywhere else, because the league has so few secrets. They make you post your injury reports. They make you post, just about everything else. So, and that's all because of the gambling situation. They have to keep things as open as possible so that the gambling stuff does not turn into something weird and ugly. So yeah, we don't get, Tom Brady he gets this much teeny tiny bit of inside information, and I get none, sort of thing. And Troy Aikman will get the exact same stuff. The teams have learned how to work around it. They're absolutely fine.
Okay, well, really, no changes in the Fox lineup. You've got Joe Davis and Greg Olson, Adam Amin, and Drew Brees. Brees took over for Sanchez. He had some difficulty in Indy. Number 4, Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma. Number 5, Kevin Kugler and Moose Johnston. Moose Johnson. I mean, that cat is. Well, I guess he's been in as long as Aikman, right?
Oh, yeah, he absolutely has been. And I'll tell you what, there is nobody more fun to work with than Daryl Johnston. Moose is absolutely just the greatest guy. He was on our crew for a couple of years, before Greg Olson popped in with us. And it's just an incredibly great guy. I still chat with him on a regular basis. Moose is just. He's just a really, really cool guy. He's a wonderful family man. He's just so solidly grounded. I love him to death. I cannot say enough nice things about Moose.
And the 6th team, Chris Myers and Stink, Mark Schlereth.
Yes. Chris Myers, who
still going, man.
Mr. Everyman for Fox. He does whatever sport Fox has on. Chris Myers will be there to at least sit behind a podium, do a game, work in the pits, do whatever has to be done. He's a character, and he's a great guy.
Well, and we got to go to CBS. And after Vrabel's situation in New England, I think the number 2 story in the offseason, non-football related, was Tony Romo. Mm-hmm. Tony Romo is right now not listed on the roster of CBS announcers. They have already moved J.J. Watt up to number 1 with Jim Nantz. Ross Tucker has moved up to number 2 with Ian Eagle. What are there's a lot of conjecture that CBS wanted out of the contract and this gave him an out. Question number 1 is, will Tony Romo work a CBS game this season?
Boy, that Dave, I'm not going to avoid the question because I just flat out don't know.
We're going to tape this and we'll know, with people know, but I guess that you're right. It's just kind of up in the air, but it's very unusual for someone to lose one of these gigs. I mean, you look at John Madden, you look at Troy Aikman. These are jobs that people have held on to for a long time. Go back to Merlin Olsen and all of that. Chris Collinsworth. I know. I was trying to get him. I mean, Chris has been number 1 for a long time. So
absolutely.
it was one of those
Summerall and
things.
Brookshire back in the 60s.
Oh yeah,
So.
and it's just shocking that it happened.
Just all I'm going to say is that just everybody has been reading all of the stuff that has been posted. There's a ton of conjecture. Yes, the CBS won on their contract. They're not out of that contract yet. That has not been announced whether or not if they're going to try and get out of paying him his last $72 million. Time will tell. That's going to. There's a whole lot of lawyers are going to get involved with a whole lot of stuff. And the CBS just say, well, we're going to let the fires burn down a little bit and see what happens, and move from there. Yeah, it's a huge bad break for Tony, considering where he's been and what he's done, and all I can say is this, man, it's just a bad situation for everybody.
Yeah, and in no short order though, JJ Watt moves up to number 1.
You're right.
I mean,
right.
after being number 2 last year.
Yeah, well, and they love JJ. They love what he has done. He's been a real high impact, high energy guy in a short term situation. Giving him this opportunity here will put him on the highest stage that they can put him on. CBS has the Super Bowl not this season but next season, which will give us an opportunity to say, in this year, they'll then know, they'll say, hey, we're going to end up paying Romo. We're going to bring him back. We like JJ, but we want Romo back, or we're going to do this, or there's a couple of other options that I'm just not even going to get into that could possibly happen. We'll go from there. But once the season gets started, then it'll be more about football. But man, this last month has just been nuts with some of this stuff.
Fan favorite Kevin Harlan stays at number 3 with Trent Green, Andrew Catalon. Yep. And Logan Ryan at number 5, Spiro Ditas with Adam Archuleta, and number 6, Tom McCarthy with Robert Turbin. But I the guy, and I know you work with all the announcers and all of that, but there's a guy that brings a smile to my face every time I think about him, and that is Kevin Harlan. I mean, the guy just loves what he does, right?
Well, Kevin. There are very few people that have more energy all the time than Kevin. And if you listen to his Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football or whatever, he'll do a game on the radio. Just such incredible energy, and he's just so incredibly descriptive about what is going on with the play. And he's just and then to just kind of sit behind him and work with him. I mean, he's got that same energy. I've done some basketball with him, and same situations, and some Thursday Night Football. He's just he demands a lot, and he demands a lot of himself.
And when there's a cat on the field or a guy running around without his shirt on, that's what he really he wrote talking about chicken tenders or something like that.
Yes.
He's just right on it, man.
Yeah, no, he finds all those little pieces of all that little stuff going on, and and especially on the radio, when you're needing, you can describe it so that when you're sitting at home or sitting in your car, you can just see that cat running across the field. You can see that squirrel running in the other direction, or you can see, going, oh, there's 75 guys standing behind the goalpost, taking their shirts off, waving their shirts. It gives you that really, really, it's a fun, mental image and Kevin does a great job of describing that.
All right. Well, let's bring it on. NFL football. I'm sure the ratings will be out of this world as they normally are. You look at all the 100 top shows of the year, and 85 of them are NFL games. We could go on the stats and all that, but it's going to be a great season. Hopefully the Colts can hang in there to the end, and we'll look forward to, hopefully they can get the sight lines fixed in Buffalo, and
they may have to saw off some corners of the end zone. I'm not sure. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Well, Jeff, again, we thank you for joining us.
Oh, always a pleasure, Dave. Always welcome. Great to talk with you guys, and thanks to Buzz Sports for all of the work that they did. At the start of the show, you talked about them, and we spent a lot of time standing side by side doing a lot of Legion baseball this summer. They did a lot of games, at North Montgomery High School covering the American Legion, and they were professionals through and through, and it was just great to work with them. So I wish them nothing but the best of luck.
Dave Davenport, thank you. Go Raiders. On Crawfordsville, peachcast.podbean.com, the Fork Media app. Like, share, and subscribe. Apple, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, Podbean. Until next time, America, I'm Dave Peets. Thanks for listening to the Crawfordsville Peachcast.
Thank you for listening to the Crawfordsville Peachcast. If you enjoyed it, follow the podcast and ring the bell so that way you'll always be up to date with the newest episodes. We'll see you next time.